This is Pan Jazz Radio at thepancafe.com, playing the very best in Pan Jazz from around the world. Everything from hard bop to smooth jazz, acoustic and electronic, soloists or full steel bands, funk, soul and soca vibes, just tantalizing your jazzy taste buds with that Caribbean flavour. So if you love your jazz with a little spice and a nip of rum, then this is for you. You can email the show at jazzradio@thepancafe.com. That's jazzradio@thepancafe.com. Ask for what you want. If you want to hear a tune or you would like to know more about an artist or anything, just email me, jazzradio@thepancafe.com. Hi, my name's Vine and you're in tune to Pan Jazz Radio, the new jazz radio show that's going to either introduce you or, for those who are into Pan already, just going to highlight the jazz that's out there for us all to hear. We are going around the globe looking for and listening to some of the greatest Pan jazz that you have out there. And we will be reviewing artists and albums, and I'll be letting you know where you can get all the kind of music for. So this is the place to stay, and keep it tuned to Pan Jazz Radio at thepancafe.com. Right, well, this first tune you're listening to, this is Maiden Voyage, and this is off Jazz at the Pan Cafe Volume 1. of the hard things about getting hold of music is being able to find where to buy it. So here at the Pan Cafe and the Pan Jazz Network is where you're going to learn about all the musicians, all their albums, and where you can buy them from. So keep your finger locked on that dial and keep it on, Pan Jazz Radio at thepancafe.com. So like I said earlier, this is Maiden Voyage and it's by the Pan Cafe Quartet and it's off the album Jazz at the Pan Cafe Volume 1. Coming up, we have Jonathan Scowls from the album Plot Scheme and a track called Room of Maps. Well, that's Jonathan Scales for ya, and a tune called Room of Maps. We'll be reviewing one of his albums called One Track Mind down later on in the show. But coming up now is a tune called Stop by Tjader Avenue by Derek Smith, and it's off the album Pan Montuno.
Jazz Radio.
that's Derek Smith, and Stop by Tjader Avenue from the album Pan Montuno. And coming up now, a lovely track called Morena Osha from the album Reid, Wright and Be Happy, featuring Ron Reid on pans, Orville Wright piano and David Happy Williams bass. What a beautiful track that one is. Morena, Osha, from the album Reid, Wright and Be Happy, featuring on pan Ron Reid.
Now look here, Sonny. Make sure you listen to me and listen hard. Above all else, you must never forget to mind your 3s and 2s.
Well, this is a review of Jonathan Scales' one-track Mind. Debut from this young man. I was so impressed by the write-ups of him that I had to review this. And what I will say, as you can hear, is that One Track Mind, which is the name of the album from Mr. Jonathan Scales, is not for the faint-hearted. So if the jazz that you listen to is like Randy Crawford and Kenny G on a cool afternoon, then this is not jazz for you. So be prepared for some good old-fashioned, highly arranged, melodically inspired, unadulterated jazz. Right, so let's get on with the review. Make Things Happen kicks this album off on what I think is the right note. A quite emotive track with that cool, funky rhythm and Jonathan-style melody. Then comes Desert, and it's a sandy track. Nice melody intro with pan and bass. Tight. Cool change introducing Piano Man. Just waiting for the sandstorm. Oh, here it is! And then blows in the tabla man. Next off is Second Nature. Is a cool, mellow, just cool and mellow. I love it. Now listen here, Sonny. Mind track 4. It's called Mind Your 3s and 2s. And that's this one. Amazing. One-touch melody and great licks. And that flute is killing it. In a good way. Slap Still is well named. I found this really interesting and a great pan solo. Sounds in parts like he rests a magnet or something under the pan on some notes. Cool, man. Then it's got Pan Grass, and it's another fast, energetic track. Banjo and pan, smashing it. This is reminiscent of the dueling banjos, but I think pans win, hands down. Valentine Gifts from India shows Jonathan's knowledge of world music in the melodies. The Questions Unanswerable is another solo piece, and in places heaped with pleasant effects that I think enhance the performance. A Puzzle for Joel is slower than usual for John. It's a soulful tune that will interest the mind with a great sax solo there. John's Mirage rounds off the album with another melody-led track that's off the scale again. This is a well-crafted first album for Jonathan. The tracks are all brilliantly written, the musicians are as tight as anything, and the production is of the highest quality. Believe me when I tell you, this is not smooth melodic jazz. If you buy this album, prepare to be dazzled and amazed. This is not an album to tap your foot to or click those fingers. The Pan Cafe gives its vote of approval and a £5 out of £6 rating. This is a bad album. Go out and buy it. I can't wait for number 2. This is Dexter Joseph and Windows, and it's on the forthcoming album, soon to be released, called Jazz at the Pan Cafe Volume 2, a tribute to Blue Note.
Jazz Radio at thepancafe.com.
those windows, and what a beautiful rendition that was from Dexter Joseph. Coming up, one of the pan greats, Mr. Andy Narell, and from his, I think it's from his first album, Stickman, called Celtic Folk Song.
This is the new sound. This is the new sound. Pan Jazz Radio.
I tell you, pan jazz is beautiful. Thank you, Mr. Andy Narell. That was Celtic Folk Song. Right, this is a tune called Blues for Sal. It's on an album called Yesterday's Man by Mr. Saltman Knowles, and it features pan prodigy Mr. Victor Provost.
jazz with a little bit of spice. This is Pan Jazz Radio.
That was Mr. Victor Provost playing on Saltman Knowles' Yesterday's Man with the tune entitled Blues for Sale. And a good friend of mine, Mr. Gary Gibson, with his album, Yeah Boy, with a tune called Pearls of Wisdom. Check it out.
This is Pan Jazz Radio at thepancafe.com.
Right, this is Pearls of Wisdom on the album Ya Boy. Yeah Boy. I don't know, it depends on how you, I suppose where you come from. It could be Ya Boy, it could be Yeah Boy, or Ya Boy. From Mr. Gary Gibson. Nice one, Gary. Alright, we're going to end the show now with probably one of my favourite tunes from an album by Monty Alexander called Ivory and Steel. The tune's called Look Up, and it's featuring two greats, Mr. Len Bugsy Sharp and Othello Molino. Don't forget you can email the show at jazzradio@thepancafe.com. That's jazzradio@thepancafe.com. Thank you for tuning in to Pan Jazz Radio. See you in 2 weeks' time. This is Vine signing out. See you later.
Pan Jazz Radio at thepancafe.com.